You know, this is one last journey, and we will complete the master development plan that was launched 10 years ago, 2008. So that's the first round of applause I've ever gotten in my life, and it has nothing to do with me at all, which is really good.
It has a lot to do with you.
So the construction of the freyer-newman Center will wrap up at the end of 2019. Several of you have asked me that this morning. And immediately thereafter, we will start to repurpose and to remodel portions of the classroom in the Betcher Center where you just were for breakfast. At that time, all elements will then be in place to fulfill our mission here at the Gardens in bold ways for many decades. So 19 to say 24 months from now, we're going to have a huge, huge party here because that will mark the end of the construction within and for the master development plan because it will be finished. And through this process, we have had thousands of donors, trustees, volunteers, staff, architects, construction workers, engineers, horticulturists, city officials, city staff, educators, scientists, vendors, and of course our neighbors. They have all played an important role throughout this complicated process, and we thank all of you. One person who couldn't be here with us this morning I want to thank personally, and that is Mayor Michael Hancock. So I did that later last week. I wanted to thank him because of his leadership in getting the GO bonds passed in last November, and the cultural side, the cultural package of the GO bonds passed with a huge majority, which we were all excited about. And from that cultural package, funds are going to the construction of what we are groundbreaking on here today. So today we're going to do this ceremony in a special way. So I want to turn it over to Brian Vogt, our CEO, who has led us through a long, long process with a master development plan, but a very successful process, to tell us how we're going to go about today. Brian?
Great. Good morning. It's a remarkable thing when you think about it. Just about a year ago, our fundraising committee, chaired by Charlie Woolley, there's Charlie, we were just talking that it seemed unlikely we might be here today, but the group was so determined, so ready for this, and so not giving up when every time I walked into a room, the budget increased by $5 million. I appreciate that. The budget actually has gone up quite a bit because we really see this opportunity as the last big opportunity to build this kind of infrastructure for the Gardens programming and mission for many, many decades to come. And it really did take an extraordinary team of people to make this day possible. A lot of you may not know that back in the early 1950s, Denver Botanic Gardens was actually started in City Park at a location right next to what is now the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. It turned out that it wasn't the best place to have a garden because without any gates or walls, people kept stealing all of the plants. Based on the frenzied activity we had at the plant sale over the weekend, it felt kind of like the same thing. But most of the plants that went out of here on Friday and Saturday were plants that we wanted them to take. We wound up moving over here, but we wanted to harken back to 1951 and actually back to the 1940s, and the people who first dreamt of this amazing institution for this remarkable community. So our groundbreaking will take a slightly different twist. Our intrepid horticulture staff snuck over to City Park, and they actually extracted a few cuttings from this Juniperus carnartii, which is a very special juniper that was actually planted at the original Denver Botanic Gardens. And what will happen is over the next couple of years, they will be working with it in our greenhouses. They will bring it to full life, and they will plant it in front of this brand new freyer-newman Center to harken us back to the very first origins of our institution. So isn't that cool? And one thing you should also know is that this shovel right over here that will be used by each of our representational diggers today is actually the first shovel used with projects between G.H. Phipps and Denver Botanic Gardens when we broke ground on the iconic Betcher Memorial Conservatory back in 1964. So some amazing people have looked at this very first plant and have touched that very shovel in order to start this brand new beginning for all of us. First up, we want to recognize and thank with all our hearts the people that have stepped up as donors. There are literally thousands of them, but in particular I want to call out a few. The Hewitt Family Foundation, Jane Hamilton, the Fidelity Foundation, Gates Family Foundation, the Colorado Garden Foundation, Daniel and Janet Mordecai Foundation, Betcher Foundation, Enid and Crosby Kemper Fund and Kemper Foundations, the Bonfils Stanton Foundation, the estate of Robert Ming, and then extraordinary thanks to the Schlesman Family Foundation, to our legendary B. Taplin, to the extraordinary Lyda Hill, and just in the last couple of weeks, we were given a challenge grant from the Sturm Family Foundation with just over $4 million to go so that we could do all the rehab work. They challenged us with just over $2 million to match every donation over $100 till we reach that finish line, and we've already met half of it in the last 2 weeks. So big hand to all of those amazing donors. But we would not be here today if it wasn't for a few miracles that occurred in the last year, those miracles that in Charlie's committee we kept hoping would happen. We weren't sure what they would be or where we would find them, but we found them in 4 extraordinary people that stepped up to ensure that this actually occurred. They are Ginny and John Frere and Robert and Judi Newman, and they get not only the honor of having this building named after them, they get to be our first diggers this morning. So please help me thank the Freres and the Newmans. Come on forward. It is just like home. Yes. This is the red carpet. All right. How about you? First shovel. You want to aim just a little bit.
Watch this.
Hey.
I work right with
Awesome. Yes. You can do that. You can do that. That's right. Thank you, John.
I would like to thank all of you for coming today and seeing this momentous event. And I want to thank the City of Denver, the SCFD, and all the wonderful donors that have helped us make this happen. I also want to thank the Board of Trustees, the Gardens Administration, and those who have had the vision and the patience and the persistence in making this happen. And also all the volunteers that make this garden work, who love every bit of plants and dirt and everything that's here. And may I hope that this is just a wonderful building and the community will love it. Thank you all for coming.
Well, of course, Judi and I are thrilled to be part of this last phase of the master plan, especially since it encompasses two things that are close to our hearts, and that's science and education. Judi is an avid gardener and loves plants. I am definitely a brown thumb person and really a neophyte at this, but as a neophyte, I thought, well, what can I say today that might make sense? And I have this habit of trying to find some quotes that might impact people, and I found a couple of short ones that I thought I would like to share with you. The first is from, it's certainly germane to the mission we have here. The first is from our third president, Thomas Jefferson, who said, "The greatest service which can be rendered by any country is to add a useful plant to its culture, especially a bread grain. Next in value after bread is oil." That's pretty forward thinking from 200 years ago. The second short quote is from the noted author and biochemist Isaac Asimov, who, as probably many of you know, wrote 500 different books, mostly science fiction. And he said, "It's humbling to think that all animals, including human beings, are parasites of the plant world." So we can think of ourselves that way, as parasites. And it'll give us something really to cogitate on as we walk through or work in the halls of this new building. So thank you all.
When Bob was describing himself, he did a good job at describing me. Jenny's the one that really is behind this. I normally do ad lib, but I'm not going to do that today. But Jenny and I, on behalf of the Freyer family, are honored to be part of the Center for Science, Art, and Education. The Newmans, Freyers, and countless others came together to fulfill the garden's long-term strategic plan. This could not have happened without the vision and hard work of the Board of Trustees, Brian Vogt, DBG's leadership team, staff, and volunteers. At the announcement party, which was last December, Brian presented to the Newmans and to us a great gift of written comments from all staff and volunteers of the gardens. There was 220 that we got. They were very special, and I thought I would read some of the comments to you from the staff. "The center's improved design and flow will make it much easier for me to engage with our volunteers and the visiting public on a daily basis. We all give us the opportunity to continue growing our herbarium collections, and there are better understanding Colorado's biodiversity for years to come." Another, the opportunities for meaningful exhibits that highlight the natural world. The intersections of art and science abound. Another, if there has been an honor to serve the community and bring stellar art exhibitions to Denver these past 5 years, it is certainly a privilege to start conceiving indoor exhibitions, and I am grateful. Thank you. Another, speaking of endowments, when I started at the gardens more than 10 years ago, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I knew this had the potential to be my dream job. In 2008, it was through support from the Gladys Cheeseman Evans Endowment that I started the Conservation Genetics Lab. I have since had the opportunity to address conservation questions for some of our rarest species. The continued support of the endowment has allowed for expansion of our lab capacities and will provide future support for graduate students as well as projects. As the Director of Research and Conservation, it has been my dream to raise the profile of the scientific world. We do here at the gardens. Finally, a couple from Karen and from Brian, but the new building will expand our outreach in so many ways. More education classes, expand art outreach, and oh my gosh, the research that can be done in state-of-the-art labs. And Brian, I think of the millions of guests, countless staff and volunteers, all with lives enriched by the center. It is simply awe-inspiring. And a note on Brian, everybody's worried he may not have much to do, but he's talking to the water department for across the street. Thank you all.
Next, we celebrate the city and county of Denver, the mayor, the council, the staff, who are great partners to us, and also to all of the citizens of Denver for supporting the Our Denver bonds last year. Representing the city today, we are honored to have the CFO and Deputy Mayor of the city, Brendan Hanlon, our own City Council member for District 10, Wayne New, and our pal, our board member, Executive Director of Parks and Rec, Happy Haynes. Please give them a big hand.
I'm thrilled to be here, having worked on the GEO Bond program for over a year. Getting to the point where we're actually implementing projects is really exciting. So thank you for having me, and I appreciate it. On behalf of Mayor Michael B. Hancock, welcome friends to the Botanic Gardens, and welcome also distinguished guests. The mayor is unable to attend today, but sends his deepest thanks and congratulations to the Denver Botanic Gardens leadership, the board, its staff, and its generous donors. The entire city team is excited to be celebrating a groundbreaking of one of the 2017 general bond projects. I just want to take a moment just to acknowledge the amount of staff time that went into that as well. We had a huge, over 100 city staffers who helped staff that project and get it onto the ballot. So thank you to all of their work as well. The freyer-newman Center for Science, Art, and Education is just the second project to break ground since the $937 million bond program was approved by voters last November. In fact, our first project list and debt issuance is expected to be received by City Council for a final vote next week. So expect that, Councilman New. Thanks to voters, bond funds will allow the Denver Botanic Gardens to complete their master development plan for the new freyer-newman Center for Science, Art, and Education, as well as the rehabilitation of the Betcher Memorial Center. Denver's cultural assets provide opportunities for people of all ages and backgrounds to learn, have fun, and explore together. This exciting new science, art, and education center is an example of how bond funds can move a project to reality and complement a tremendous fundraising effort in partnership. The mayor is greatly looking forward to this new facility being among Denver's unique cultural assets for many years to come. Thank you again for your partnership and your vision and this remarkable new facility. Thank you, and I'd like to turn it over to Happy Haynes, Manager of Architecture.
Thank you, Brendan. Good morning, everyone. Are they out there? Good morning, everyone. There they are. Thank you so much. It's just my distinct delight to be here on this beautiful sunny Colorado day to kick this extraordinary project off. And I want to say our partnership with the Denver Botanic Gardens goes back, as Brian mentioned earlier, nearly 70 years. And shortly after the Gardens was founded as a private nonprofit organization in 1951, it negotiated an agreement with the city. Our city leaders had the foresight to understand the value and the beauty that botanical gardens would bring to our city. The Botanic Gardens' first employees were city employees, and the city employees worked here at the gardens up until the early 1990s. Throughout the years, we have worked together toward the success of this botanical oasis in our city. In 2007, Denver voters overwhelmingly voted to pass the Better Denver Bond. The gardens received bond funds for the first time since the initial bond investment in 1989 for $300,000. This time, $18.5 million from the Better Denver bonds were used to build the new greenhouse complex, including all of the new state-of-the-art greenhouses, 6 of which are viewable by the public, and 1 of which houses the garden's most famous flower, Stinky.
Yep, that's right.
These funds also enabled the construction of head houses, horticultural offices, an orchid display, the orangery, and adjacent terrace, among a host of other infrastructure projects. And in a second round of that Better Denver bonds in 2014, the gardens received an additional $6.6 million that was used to build the Hive Garden Bistro and the Science Pyramid, which is just a remarkable landmark in our city today. With its iconic design and engaging functionality, it has won numerous construction and architectural awards. And I'm sure this new building is going to be a candidate for that as well. Bond support for both projects was leveraged to raise additional private funds to complete construction and to create programming for the gardens. Today, we are here to celebrate once again that Denver voters made an important decision to reinvest in our city by passing the 2017 GO bond. We are proud to once again work alongside the gardens to build the new Freyer-Newman Center for Science, Art, and Education. Doesn't that sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah. With another contribution of $18 million from the voters of Denver, who are amazing and generous, again, because they recognize the extraordinary value of this institution. The gardens have always been a place where science meets art, meets education, meets beauty. The new center will provide the space to advance the plant-related scientific knowledge in the 21st century by creating an interdisciplinary home for the garden's diverse pursuits, which you heard from the employees earlier in those quotes. As a city, we couldn't be prouder of our relationship with the Botanic Gardens. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge members of my team who nurture this relationship every day: Gordon Robertson, Mike Bouchard, Megan Alsop. Thank you for your tremendous efforts here too. As a top tourist destination, Denver Botanic Gardens enriches the experience of residents and visitors alike. It has made its mark on the national and international map and contributes to Denver's economic, artistic, and natural wealth, adding to the vibrancy of our city. And most importantly, and I walked in with a whole bunch of them this morning, puts a smile on the face of everyone who comes to visit. Thank you for letting us be a partner with you. And please let me introduce the councilman who represents this area. He will welcome you to his district, Councilman Wayne New.
Thank you, Happy. Yes, I'm Wayne New. I'm the city councilman for this beautiful district of District 10, which is the central portion of our city. And there's no question to any of our residents here in District 10 that the Botanic Gardens is that centerpiece of our district. Tourists and locals of all ages visit the gardens for its pure beauty, joy, and inspiration. My brother and sister-in-law recently came from Raleigh, North Carolina to visit, and the first place we brought them was the Botanic Gardens. It was just really so fun and so inspiring to us to see the wonder and amazement. It just filled our hearts with pride for the Botanic Gardens. It was such a fun time for them, and it gave them a real insight to the beauty of Denver. The Botanic Gardens has always been a site for research and learning opportunities, and today marks the beginning of a new era. Thanks to the leadership of the Board of Directors, the incredible Brian Vogt, his hard-working staff, and the many volunteers, which include many of my residents and neighbors, we were able to break ground on a momentous new center for science, art, and education. As has been mentioned, the $18 million allocation of your tax bonds to the GO bond, combined with the garden's own fundraising and far-sighted vision, will make this new educational center a place that will teach us all that plants have to offer us and our planet. From food and medicine, history and science, to art and the future, The center will inform our parks, personal gardens, and appreciation for life. We're just so fortunate to have this expansion, and I just want to thank also all the donors who helped make this possible, and we're looking forward to seeing that opening in 2 years. Thank you very much.
It's hard to imagine an institution that could have been more blessed than we are when it comes to designers and architects. If you look back at the list over the last century, they include names like Benedict, Hornbein, White, Niemtet, Triba, and David Triba, who's the man that actually kicked off this entire master development plan. And now we are so fortunate to have teamed up with Davis Partnership for this final project. And we have just an amazing general contractor. General contractor, again, that goes back to the early days. And could you tell G.H. Phipps, maybe, is our general contractor? They were the general contractor on our conservatory. And they, for a long time, said it was the most difficult building they had ever built. Then they tackled the pyramid, and they said, this was the most difficult building we've ever built. And we hope this one isn't, but I'm guessing it might just be. So for their courage and talent, please welcome David Daniel, representing Davis Partnership, and Roger Treichler, representing G.H. Phipps. It's the easiest shoveling you've ever done.
Guess I'm first. So Brian, thank you so much for that introduction, and beyond that, also thank you so much for allowing us to join the Botanic Gardens and your team on this journey ahead. It's been a fun ride so far, and I'm sure it's going to continue to be so as we move forward. When we at Davis Partnership Architects began thinking about the possibilities for this project that could be woven into this historical and physical fabric of this amazing institution, we were struck right away with a common element that seems to touch everything associated with the Denver Botanic Gardens. That common element was, and still is today, a rich and pervasive feeling of optimism. We found it inherent in the historic and bold architecture of the Betcher Memorial Hall and Conservatory, the rich variety of programming that seeks to serve all populations, regardless of age or economics, the regional, national, and global outreach that beforehand had been unknown to us, and the general happiness, as was mentioned earlier, in the sense of awe that is reflected each and every day with every visitor that walks through these gates. And as luck would have it, we were fortunate enough to join this team to help complete this master plan, and came to understand where the source of this optimism lies. And if I could share one thing with you guys today, would be that the source is not in any of those things that I mentioned earlier, but rather embodied in the people here that serve the gardens each and every day. And whether that is, all of you know this, they work in the most amazing office environment on the planet, which is certainly a reason for optimism. It's also the chance to see that ever-evolving seasons of beauty that unfold here throughout the years. It also might be the ability to educate and enlighten all those that are curious and that come to visit the gardens. And it's also instilled in the sense of obligation to enrich the lives of the underserved, whether that's locally or globally. And lastly, it might be the realization that the work done here is real, it's essential, and it has the ability to change the world. Perhaps it's a mix of all these things that contribute to the culture of optimism and promise of the future, unlike any institution we've had the fortune of working with. And it's truly reflected in the selfless spirit of the Gardens volunteer community, the motivation and dedication of the staff across each and every department here, the unwavering persistence of the development team and the fundraising committees, the tireless devotion of the board members, the depth of generosity of the donor community, and of course, this absolute ray of sunshine, even on some cloudy days, Brian Vogt. So here we are 2.5 years later after about to break ground on the freyer-newman Center for Science, Art, and Education. And from the onset, the design intent was simply to try and embrace what we felt everywhere in the gardens, seeking to provide a solution that could reflect that sense of optimism that has made itself known here for more than 50 years. We hope that this project can provide a backdrop for elevated programming and research. It can be a center for our community, connecting us all to the mission of the gardens, and hope to inspire a few people along the way as well. We at Davis Partnership Architects have been influenced greatly by the attitudes found within the gardens, and are grateful for all the partnerships with GH Phipps, all our consultant team members, and our design staff as well. Our collective hope is that the freyer-newman Center will serve as a foundation upon which the Denver Botanic Gardens can launch the next 50-year pursuit of inspiring visitors and staff alike while improving our world and all that live within it. It's truly our honor to be in this journey with you, Brian, and your staff, and we look forward to seeing it realized.
I'd like to start by thanking the mayor, excuse me, thank the mayor, city council for the opportunity, Dick, your staff, and the board of directors for having us back again. GH Phipps' journey starts here a very, very long time ago. Brian referenced the conservatory. To be able to break the ground with the very shovel that for this building that broke the ground for the conservatory so many years ago is a wonderful experience, and something that for the 230 employee owners of the GH Phipps Company is something I cherish and will be able to take back to those folks. It's a very important journey that our company has taken over the years. Jerry Phipps started our company in 1952 to do two things. It was to put people to work and to do projects that benefited the community. I can find no other thing better than something like this that is built specifically for the community. And it allows us to stay true to our core values as a company, and the partnership that was established between Botanic Gardens and GH Phipps Company in the early 60s when we first built the conservatory stays true to that mission today. Through some of the work product things of Jumpstart to 2007 in Colorado Workforce, we continue to put people to work and keep things going well for the community. So I'd like to thank Brian. Your tireless effort to bring this master plan to fruition has been an amazing journey. When the team that I'm working with now, that we came out here 10, 12 years ago and started it, I can barely remember what the campus looked like, except that it took a lot of hard work and dedication, and the work started with you, my friend. Your staff has been absolutely instrumental in bringing this to fruition, and this is the exclamation point, the final chapter of that master plan, and the GH Phipps Company is so proud to be involved with it. Thank you very much for having us back.
Now, why don't you all stay up here a second?
Well, we want to say something.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you want to say something? Okay.
I always have something to say. First of all, I'd say good morning and thank you for this amazing, wonderful weather. Let's start there, given what the last couple days have looked like. Once again, Brian Vogt holds up the clouds. The second thing that I thought about this morning, and knowing we were going to do this, was to ask the group, if offered the opportunity, to freeze this moment in time. Freeze this moment in time. And interestingly, looking at these posters, I thought, we'll be on those posters someday. That's not a Debbie Downer moment. That's a moment of an enduring legacy. And the opportunity for all of us to be part of something this amazing and this special is exactly how all the wonderful, wonderful icons that are on this planet, in this city, in this country, get built. It gets built a shovel of dirt at a time. It gets built $1 at a time. It gets built a dream at a time. It gets built smiles at a time in all the many, many ways that we all come together to be parts of something special. So just freeze this moment is what I'd say. It is sacred ground upon which we stand in so many ways, and we're going to have the chance to think about what this space will be transformed into, not just for us in our generation, but for many to come. And for that, I am grateful to the Fryers, the Newmans, and the countless others who found $1, $2, thousands of dollars, millions of dollars to make it possible. Thank you, and just know that you're part of something super special and super cool with the Denver Botanic Gardens. Thank you.
It seems to me we have made some history here today.
Yeah, just a second.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't a long enough shovel, but as you can tell, we're missing somebody. Somebody who really has guided us not only through the master plan, and by the way, this is dated in 2008, which was the beginning of the master plan. It's on the stem of the shovel. And so to put the last dig in, so to speak, I want to call upon everybody's friend and the real leader of the Denver Botanic Gardens, Brian Vogt.